Weave it together, coming up short and giving up never. Weave it together, come along, come along, come along, come along. Mending it together. A world on fire can't last forever. We're gonna mend it together. A stitch in time is gonna save nine. A stitch in time is gonna save nine. And I wanna be a catalyst for change, trying something different. I wanna change the rules of the game, 'cause even the smallest bird can fly up to the top of the tree. And I wanna be a catalyst and find out what could be. Dreaming together. Some say hope is a thing with feathers. We're gonna dream together. It sings a song, never stops at all. It sings a song, never stops at all. And I wanna be a catalyst for change, trying something different. I wanna change the rules of the game, 'cause even the smallest bird can fly up to the top of the tree. And I wanna be a catalyst and find out what could be.
Hello, everybody. Don't see too many faces, but I suppose that you are there. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much. And welcome to the event Regenerative Architecture in Cities. It's a part of the Catalyzing Change Week and organized by Catalyst 2030. First of all, I want to introduce each of my collaborators or our collaborators, that they will introduce themselves with two questions: that who are you and what brings you here? Thank you very much. And Daniel, I give you the word.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Daniel Rasbash. I am actually part of the Catalyst 2030 Secretariat. So I'm part of the team that's been organizing this whole week. So I hope you've been enjoying it. And so it's what brings me here is that it's literally my job to be here. But I'm also very happy to be here because I'm also doing a master's in environmental policy and management. And one of my favorite areas has always been regenerative everything, regenerative architecture, tourism, agriculture. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm very excited to learn more about it. And I will pass on to the other Daniel.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Yeagley. I'm from Bern, Switzerland. I'm an architect. I've been working in the contracting world for the past 20 years here in Switzerland for large-scale projects. And what brings me here is now a path of transformation where I move and shift my focus towards a more regenerative, more reusable and circular architectural and building process. And I hand over to Samira.
Hi, I'm Samira. I'm the founder of Need Lab. I usually stay in Spain, and we work with a lot of communities. And for the past 7 years, we've been on 4 continents supporting communities become more sustainable. And we work with them in a very participatory way, understanding the solutions that we really need and the materials that are there in the neighborhood to solve the problems with them in their community. So they have the skills to resolve that in the future by themselves. And we think of architecture in a democratic way, in a very regenerative and participatory way. And that's why I'm here. And today we will kind of play a game with you, I think, and involve you in also a dialogue to see how we should make our cities more sustainable, regenerative for the coming future.
Thank you very much, Samira. And my name is Diego. I work in 7 Generations, architect and consultant in co-living, co-working, and co-learning. What brings me here is exactly the word regeneration, a word that we work on it, and I would like to bring to the architecture. And it's a big step and a challenging one, but I think is the need or the curiosity to go there and try to develop this idea that is kind of an innovation thing. Thank you very much for your joining, and I would like to start with a presentation that will take some of the first 10 minutes, and if possible, this is a game, so we would like to have fun and to play with us after in a mural with the questions that we want to propose you. So what is regeneration, or being regenerative? Is the ability to be in the state of change. That means that you are always able to change yourself. And regeneration in architecture, apart from being an architect that is art and science of designing spaces, it's really pointing these forwards of renewing, restoring, and growing to be resilient to the change at the end, no? And the best example for it, the best example of regeneration is nature, no? And that gives me 2 questions: that how can cities and buildings work as an ecosystem or organisms? So how buildings can be organisms, or how cities can be ecosystems? And yeah, for that, we need to know where we are at. So we are in a moment of that sustainable is kind of the main present moment, trying to go to energy efficient, that we don't harm. And from where we come from, is from state of material efficiency, so economically. And where we want to go, I would say that we will go to this state of growth efficiency. And in this moment, it's changing a lot. So it's changing because our way of life, no? And this is kind of one main point: co-working, co-learning, and co-living is kind of bringing here, not right now, but for the last years. And the digital world, also the climate change, whoa, big issue. And with this, we want to encourage you to play a game, to play a game with 10 questions that we are developing to see what is regenerative architecture, because it's something new, something really that needs to grow. And as we believe, regeneration is not kind of a star architect who comes and say, this is the manifest of it. So we want to propose 10 questions that you can hold in yourself and go home and say, and and that you can see what is in your city or village or group, and think and create regenerative architecture with these questions. The 10 questions, I will just organize it in a cardinal way that we can just go through them. And these questions will give you the possibility to think about it, to think what is needed, and to be regenerative somehow. No? For example, in the East, what is needed to have a inspiring space where people feel free and creative? What is inspiring spaces? What is new? What is a wow? Then the Southwest is what is needed to evoke the senses in a space where people is in the present moment. So you go to a place and you can think that you have a lot of at your mind or at your head, but then it's a space that you say, whoa, I'm here. And you can feel everything. You know? As architects, we are quite developed this idea of going and see and watch what is. And that comes to the South. That's what's needed to explore a space where people is curious to discover others. So what gives curiosity to go, to explore it, to see, hey, what is going on behind that? No. Then to the Southwest is talking more about what's needed to remember the purpose of the space, where people is supported to follow their dreams. It's kind of you go to space and say, hey, why I'm doing what I'm doing here? Yeah, it's a hospital. We go here. The big question to the West, and this is part of the big challenge, what is needed to build for the next 7 generations, where people is being themselves. This is kind of a new input that say in a 7 generations, if we say 7 generations, could be 700 years or kind of that. 600 could be, let's see. And what's needed to see the seasons in a space. So the Northwest, where people is learning from cycles. So it's also important to know that it's not the same winter than summer, spring than autumn, no? And in the North is what's needed to be clear about the uses of the space, where people have a sense of unity, or who is using that space, no? So, because you can go to a bank and you see these people counting money somehow, or giving money, or taking money. What is the space giving that sense? Or this is made for the people who are living there or not? And the Northeast, it was needed to be an adaptable space where people is able to shift and change. This is kind of something that's really also important. Is also kind of what it was talking about before, like stimuli, like how can things can change in depends of the uses that they are there, that happens there. And then there comes the 2 main questions that are the inner ones, that these are depending of the project idea or what you are doing, or if you are in construction, if you are designing, if you are just showing a building and saying, that's not regenerative. It's kind of these 2 main core things that are the culture and authenticity, that is which values or visions had the project, the idea. And the other one is nature and connection, or how can be regenerative architecture connected with nature? These are the main topics, and I think they are growing quite fast. But this is kind of a 10 questions that give you the vision, a holistic vision to do it. And with these questions, it's like we want to present a mural whiteboard, and let me know, because I have to see how many people we are. So I believe like we can just discuss about it and see what people want to discuss about it, and just make the conversation with the like 30 minutes, giving 30 minutes, that we can just we will share the mural and link, and with this link we can just feel free to play, put whatever you think it's there, or if you need to say something, it's the moment to say something, because we are starting a movement, we are starting something that is regenerative architecture, is going more than sustainability. It's not only being stop and being friendly, it's more we are nature now, or how buildings can be nature. So with it, I will suggest that some wanna say something or have any questions about what we are doing. Are all of you here? Is someone?
I'm here.
Is everyone able to access the mural? Is anyone having issues opening it, doing it? Have you all used mural before?
I am here, but I'm just auditing. I'm not participating. I'm auditing because I'm a member of the board of Giroux's Foundation, but I have nothing to contribute. I'm sorry. I'm just auditing. Thank you.
No problem. Should I then share the screen on the mural so people can have so those who are auditing and not participating can still have an overview of what's happening?
That sounds good, Daniel. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
And I shared the link in the chat so you can also access the mural board directly.
I mean, it's important to see that this is a big topic, and what is, let's say we start with the one with adaptable spaces. So what do you think about, or where do you see adaptation in spaces? Because this is kind of, for example, Richard Rogers in the Pompidou just took out the structure out, and you feel free to play inside.
Yeah, you can talk about how COVID forced us all of us to use our houses as our living spaces and working spaces. Then we adapted to the external world's condition, to our ability to travel and do that or something. In our life also, as we transform our lives and needs and our families change, our houses adapt, our offices adapt as more number of people come in. So in any way, if you feel there's a need for change or adaptation in the spaces that you see around you, you can put those ideas right here. And it can be as wild as, I wish my street transforms into an amusement park on the weekend, to something as practical as, I want my street to have an adaptive space for my bicycle so it doesn't get robbed. The spectrum is open.
Yeah, exactly. It's even like the growth of a tree is changing everything somehow, or when you go to the forest and one tree just dies and feed the others, but then So when I go to a forest that I was there for 20 years, how it changed and how it's not the same. No, it's the same, but it's not the same. So that's this kind of change, adaptation to the new things that comes.
And this also reminds me of projects that we have done for living environments and apartment buildings, where apartments were adaptable in the sense of when your family became bigger, or when your family grew, you were able to rent or to add an extra room to your apartment, or once your kids move out, that room could be given back to the community and used by somebody else. So that's also a way of how spaces can be adaptable with changing needs over time. And that is often something that gets forgotten when when new projects are planned, that needs also change over time, and that it's necessary to consider that also.
Yeah. At the end, you need to consider that, because if not, you have to spend a lot of energy to rechange. So how to be adaptable today, like for example, we have a house, a family house, and now we are all away, and this space is not anymore for a family. Or should my mom move from the house, or should live with other people? And if you live with other people, needs to change, to give privacy at the same time, if you are living with people that you are not used to live.
This was something that was a very good observation during the time when people opened up their houses for Ukrainian refugees. That how what Daniel just mentioned, like if you have a kid and they went out to college, you have an extra room. How could you be adaptable in your community for the current crisis to address that? And people just came out enormously in support of the community and Europe. And that is something remarkable, and that is adaptable. That is adaptable to crises as well. And we live in a very regenerative way. So that's beautiful, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. We have a lot of inputs. Modular.
I really like the democratic ways to decide what you want there. That is super cool. Yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Democratic ways to decide what you want there. And we can see who made it, or someone to talk about that.
Do you want to share something about it, Sophia? Is it you who made it?
We cannot hear you. No.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, I researched post-growth planning, and one of the things that comes up a lot in how you might, make spaces adaptable is that you'd have participatory methods to get people talking about what they want from a space and to include diverse perspectives. Obviously that's difficult because you're going to have a lot of viewpoints and disagreements, but generally I think the idea is that would produce something more reflective of what people want.
No, exactly. I mean, at the end, it's not the last ideas of. So every voice matters in somehow. So even if there's disagreement, these people has to say disagreement and what is need to change, and that goes the adaptation to it.
Yeah, it effectively comes down to the question of what processes could be used to create adaptable spaces and to get all the voices involved, and to collect the needs that are there.
I've seen some great examples of like games like Minecraft or Lego being used with the community. If you live on that street, there were exercises that were done like everybody will meet on a Sunday morning in the plaza, and then people really visualize by moving elements and being like, this is what we feel like. And then like a few experiments were snapshots of that physical intervention were taken, and then like people just voted on it. Does it work? And it was recorded in the sense of documentation. And I think people had a few days to share their opinion if they didn't agree with it. And a notice was put out, and they carried out the interventions. So some really nice examples like that make us genuinely feel like participatory design can help our communities to get better. And yeah, that's, I think, a very holistic way. And with technology, we can make it as open source and as transparent as possible, the process of it. So yeah, it's very exciting.
For example, who just wrote the how can places react on changing environment around? Someone wrote it. Who wants to share something more?
Yeah, it was me. Actually, it's more theoretical way, but let's say resilient for the different emergencies. And for example, I'm from Ukraine, and yeah, I'm working with the Eco-Village network. So they are now trying to build regenerative places. So the little communities in the rural areas, they are host the refugees. And yeah, they are trying to build places to not to just provide the shelter, but to build the resilient community to let people participate in the building. So yeah, so that's question how the place building can like build also a community and be the safe for the nature. Yeah.
Really interesting that.
Yeah, indeed. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I agree. I truly wish every time we do an intervention or respond to a crisis, we do it in a regenerative way that actually equips people with being able to perform in the future as well. Not just one point of intervention where we do okay, there's a crisis, we give these shelters, but like the skill of that to people. So yeah, that is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, at the end, it's like new people going and giving their space there. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Should you move to the next one, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah, great.
We can just go to the east one. So, and I think it's part of that what is inspiring space for you, or what needs to be inspiring, or which spaces, or how we need to, what we need to do to feel free or creative, no? Like, where do you feel like, hey, I can say whatever I want, or I can be whatever I want? It's like, yeah.
That's a good one. No, Simon.
It remembers me. It remembers me Paul Klee Klein, the Yves Klein, the one who was just painting with naked people. It's like I feel like that's kind of freedom, no? That where a place that you can just like a beach in nowhere, in somehow. Or even if you feel free to walk around, this is also really personal, no? Because some people need a lot of space to feel free. Other people just are free wherever they are. So what is needed also to, yeah, exactly. If you feel like the digital world is just oppressing you, because you cannot say, because someone will come and say blah 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 blah. That's not freedom. Or you feel attached or attack. Wow, thank you very much. You're giving a lot of inputs.
And I just noticed this one thing that says contrasts, and I would like to ask the person who wrote that to maybe give a little example of that, because I have a very clear image of that, and I'm curious to find out if if that's what it is about. Of how do you feel inspiring, or how does a place feel inspiring by contrasts?
In some ways, I mean, both in sort of a physical sense and also a non-physical, let's say metaphysical, to use a fun word, sense. So for example, physically, you want contrasts in light, dark, because, you know, if you're always in the same kind of environment, in the same physical environment, it's difficult to change your mind. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to all of us where we've been trying to work, we've been sitting in our office all day working, we just can't break through. And then you go home, or you go for lunch, or you go sit in a park, and then suddenly you're in a new space, and that unclogs your brain in a way. So in that, both that physical sense of physical contrast and variation within the space, but also in the non-physical sense of, so if there are different kinds of people in terms of what they do, different kinds of, if it's both, if you think about the purpose, residential, commercial, like all kinds of different spaces, because then there'll be a mix of ideas and a mix of purposes with the people, and that diversity can also help to inspire, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I like the word diversity also in this context. And to me, inspiration and imagination and creativity is really about the power to break free and to show all different aspects that there are in life. And a space that reminds us of that is, in my opinion, surely a space that lets me also remember my limitless potential and lets me release my creative powers. And it's like you said, it's when within contrast and diversity, it shows all the abundance that life actually has, that life offers us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, because it's kind of the feeling, if you go out of the physical space to another new space, it gives you a new input, and it opens you in somehow. That's quite a big thing. Yeah, thank you very much. And for example, where someone wrote, care about it's moving it now. care about neurodiversity, inclusivity, gender, age. Someone just wrote about it, and maybe who they want to share.
It was me. It was me. I'm from Spain. I'm a Spanish architect and a researcher. I'm connected with other networks like Urban Resilience Research Network and climate change and so on. And about what I have read, what I have written about neurodiversity, I think that our cities and our architecture is usually very aggressive to our brains, especially to those brains that are not usual or from minorities. I'm thinking about autistic people or gifted people, those ones that are really, that are very, very sensitive to stimuli and so on. But I think that it's not only about this minority in neurodiversity. I think that it's also for normal thinkers, or the 90% of the population. We are used to live in cities that are aggressive about noise. Our architecture is good for the architects. I mean, it's like fulfill our ego, but we don't think about the impact, for example, of the architecture of Le Corbusier. Of course, he was a master, but which were the consequences of building this kind of massive concrete. I'm telling you an example. Of course, Le Corbusier and all the masters did their contribution to history, but if we replicate, I think that this kind of architecture that don't care about the well-being and about the health of people, this is also a way to cut the creativity or for communities. And if we don't feel curiosity or creativity, I think that we are going to be more controlled by our governments or the power, so on. So it is like coming back to the conversation of how architecture or cities has these political use and so on. So it seems like these are like little details, but in the end aren't. I mean, the impact is quite huge. So I also wrote about gender and age. About gender is not like speaking about feminism, but I think that when there are so many men in design, in urban planning, has an impact in our communities, in our public space, because men live the space in a different way, and our brains are different, and also the role that, for example, in some countries, women have still, and men don't have. So the public space could be dangerous for many women, and it's because maybe men cannot be empathetic to these kind of situations, or why our public space is not designed for children. Maybe women are more related with this field because. So I sorry that I have spoken a lot, and it's a mix of ideas. And what I said about gender is not about feminism, or I'm thinking also about when we don't care about designing a city for children. I'm thinking about Japan, how they think so much about creative public space. So the more creative, the more the smarter. I mean, your evolution is going to be like that. So, and now I stop speaking, sorry. Congratulations for the initiative, it's quite inspiring.
Thank you, Raquel. Everything you said really resonates with me. And yeah, it is very, very important. Also the age, I think architects are ageists, kind of. Like, I know, for instance, so many buildings that refuse to put even railings because the appeal of the design for the architect is against the safety kind of factors. It is true that we are ageist, and in some form we are sexist too when we design architecture. It also comes from the history of it being a male-dominated industry. And also statistically, how many toilets are built for women versus men? It doesn't have to be equal, because biologically we're not equal. So there's a lot more research coming out now, and I think with everything that you said should be told and spoken about more often. And the voice should be heard, and research should be informing our architecture, as well as participatory voices, not just research. So everything you said is amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I have to add also, like, I really appreciate what you said, and if we have more time, I will really like to have a long talk about this topic. And the first thing is also that I believe, like, other kind of thinking, or people, or just how can a space for autistic people, or can just show also inspire us to say, hey, okay, to learn, because some of the people are not, they are so close in their own lives that they cannot see different point of views. And this is kind of architecture, a really good topic to make people change their point of view. And I really appreciate your words, really appreciate in all aspects. And if someone also wants to share something while we are reading, because there are too many things and I really like it. For example, I see here like city at eye level and for kids.
That was me. I live in Pontevedra in Spain, and the idea here is that it's a car-free city, and that means that children can walk around as they wish and would be cared for by, you know, the community, and it's a safe space for them, which does really contribute to the feeling of freedom, because, you know, people from a young age can happily go around. It's not like they need to be accompanied, and you see people playing all the time. City at eye level, I haven't personally read it, but I think it's kind of along those lines that you would design spaces for children who are important as well.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I was also Go ahead.
Yeah, I've experienced that too. In Croatia, I was in a fourth wall town, and there were no cars inside. And the sense of freedom that I don't have to watch my back or ahead, or always be cautious of some form of motorized vehicle trying to kill me, was a liberating feeling. And my ownership, or like, to the space and the city and the closeness I had as a relationship to the space just vastly increased. And that's just by deleting one machine, which came along the way in the human history. So it is a very, very beautiful experience. And I do hope in the future more people can have those experiences in every city they live in, even if it is for a partial period of time. Barcelona is doing this, that on weekends, some of the streets that are parallel do not have cars. So kids can actually go freely, roam, and have activities. They take a chalk and draw on the streets, they play stepping stones. So this level of interaction, even momentarily, feels like a great sense of relief. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Do you think we should go to the next one? Do we have time?
Yeah, I think maybe we can make a new another circle. But I was just suggest the ones who are more active, or people who just want to say something, who really wants to go in one direction, or is too early to ask for it. If you feel in another, or we can just choose one.
On my screen, all of the mouses have headed to the south, so that's where I'm going to go.
Go ahead. So in this circle will be more like what it makes a city to be curious about each of the corners, no? Or what is needed to feel like a child, and going back to Pontevedra, in the way that what brings you there, I want to go there, what's happening, or just don't use a map somehow. No, maybe, I don't know, I'm just saying that's like the exploring style, like what is needed, that a space gives you the capacity to feel like there will be something nice at the end of this road, or at the end of these stairs, or at the end of this path, or this behind this hill. Or even, yeah, it's quite a big star. So also talking about communities, like what the curiosity to see, hey, how they are living in that place, or why this terrace is so amazing, why this corner is playing guitars, or they are playing hand drum because of the acoustic. Okay, well, you go there, what's this kind of making the need of knowing more in somehow. What do you think about? I like the ability to move without constantly stopping and checking cars again. Yeah, I really liked that, because it also talks about trust, trust that you will find something, that you are safe, or porosity. Someone who wrote porosity?
That was me. I think it means you can move in and out of spaces quite freely, in that, for example, I was in Toronto recently, and you don't really feel like exploring because everything is glass and closed, and you have to, really enter a space quite, I don't know how to describe it, quite with decision, whereas a lot of exploration is sort of weaving in and out, or going in and out of shops, in that sense that you can go in and out. That makes sense.
Yeah, porosity, or just it comes to my mind the labyrinth in somehow. So I'm from Madrid, half Galicia, and I studied in Madrid in the old university, and it was quite a labyrinth, and that gives you curiosity in somehow, that you are not, because I see other universities more functional and more new ones, that they are really straight. You go to a supermarket, and then to a mall, big mall, and there's really efficiency. A labyrinth also gives you that curiosity, and it talks a little bit about porosity, like different filters in somehow. And this is also how it contrasts from at the end, the curiosity is something is hidden, like in films also, like the need of, yeah, I know that you made something wrong, but anybody know it, and that's what will happen, the curiosity to know, to drama, or to it. Yeah. Appreciate your words. Organicity pattern. Which more topics do we have here? Well, a lot, Flow of space, unpredictable patterns.
I think it's also interesting how to reconcile these unpredictable patterns, these labyrinths, with also functionality for the people that live in a space. Because if you're obviously exploring a space is great, but if you live in a space, you also want to be able to use it easily. So how do you bridge that gap? Do you have does that mean that you need within a space both areas that are functional and areas that are unpredictable, depending on the mood you're in? Like how does that work as well?
Yeah, that makes me think of the reasons why they initially demolished those binding bits anyway, right, for functionality.
Hey, I liked it when you say, like, depends of the mood or in which emotion you are. No, I would write that because really like. So it can be related with in which kind of mood you are, that you can explore it in a way or in another way. That's interesting. Quite a new input. Thank you very much, Daniel. Wow. And cleanliness security. Nature reference. So, for example, the cleanliness security is, who wrote that?
Yeah, that was me. I mean, you don't really feel like exploring a space if it's full of rubbish and it smells bad. And and again, you don't want to explore a space if you don't feel safe in it.
Yeah.
So that sort of, I suppose that's not necessarily, I guess that for me, that's really what's needed to explore a space at that's the very basis. Because without that, a place can be full of greenery and art and full of labyrinths, but that might actually make people feel a bit nervous and a bit scared if it's, especially what we were saying before about how can that space then be designed to be more friendly for women and neurodivergent people who might have different aspects on this unpredictability and labyrinthine nature. So I think cleanliness and security is definitely something which is needed for anyone to want to explore a place.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
That is very interesting, Daniel. Like, I remember 2 years ago, Barcelona City Council wanted to change the material of the tiles because the materials were very absorbent. So the smell of urine, post-party area streets in Barcelona was so dominant that they used chlorine and all these cleaning sprays. The machines would come and clean the streets. It wouldn't work. So they had to think, how do we really make the tiles of the city non-porous so the smell doesn't stay or it doesn't stain? And that goes back to like, if the street smells good, feels right, and it's not kind of vandalized, or that you feel a sense of you wanting to walk through that street and exploring. And maybe there are stores down that street who get badly affected because of these small factors that are not analyzed. So yeah, there's a lot that we could look into that.
Amazing. I was just have a question for Daniel. How much time we have, because we have only 1 hour event and this is the last 5 minutes.
Yes, officially the event ends in 5 minutes, but if people want to stay on, you can stay on for another 15 minutes or so. Obviously, we all have constraints on our time. And it's great that there's so much to talk about, there's so much to discuss. But yes, officially the event does end in 5 minutes.
Okay, so I propose that we just, I will stay a little bit more in case that someone wants to continue. And anyways, this is the start of a research that we are doing. And we would like to invite you to continue. We make training fires every month, and to continue with this brainstorming and see how we can develop this idea. And if we will share now the PDF of the presentation, that you can have it and you can just walk around your city, your places, and think about these questions. And just there is our website, or just link that you can get in touch with us and continue this this game. And thank you very much, the ones that didn't, just that they really make a a good job. Look, a good game. It was a good game. And yeah, if someone of the other collaborators want to say something, and then we can continue brainstorming with the ones who left.
I'll just say a word. Thank you for your time, and really appreciate all the honest feedbacks. I think if we expect this exact participation from our communities and every street we live in, I think a lot of our cities would already be better. So thank you for showing up and honestly sharing your opinions. If you'd like to reach out to me, I put my email in the chat. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for all of you who are interested in joining the next training fire, as Diego has announced, I shared the link in the chat. So make sure to go and check the homepage of 7th Generations. There we will post more information about a follow-up meeting for all of our interested. And it's been a very beautiful exchange to see all these ideas, all the potential that is there. And yeah, it just makes me even more hungry to step and dive into this much more. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for these beautiful sessions and interesting exercise. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have to to jump to another call. It was quite inspiring. I hope to talk with all of you again, and congratulations to start a research project focusing on these topics.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.
For those of you who are still here and do want to stay, I suggest we can do one more circle for another 10-15 minutes to call it a day. And then if we started a few minutes late, we can end a few minutes late. And then we'll be back.
I feel like we can just already talk about 7th generation, how we need to build to the next 7 generations, or maybe it's the big topic now. That one.
How many are still here? I see we're 6.
I think we have two participants more who are not core team. So I want to be mindful of your time as well. So feel free to share something that you want to say verbally as well. And then, yeah, also feel free to hang out.
And maybe also you have to share what this experience was for you, to go into this discussion and to join this meeting.
I would just write something quickly. I mean, this is kind of, for me, is kind of the thinking of a mother when get birth. It's like thinking about what it will be good for my children. For how, if I as an architect, how I see my building. I don't like to say but the building that can stays for a long time. Just monuments like the pyramids. Wow.
I really agree with what Sophia just wrote about protecting the commons. That's really, really important. Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk a bit more about that, Sophia.
Yeah, I guess protecting our access to spaces that haven't yet been monetized, or natural spaces. And I do think like one of those is also the air. Like I know that recently they've been trying to fund vertical taxi things, and I just think it's really important to protect the skies and against the sort of privatization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it sort of, the more circles that we do, the more I realize they're all interlinked, is to protect the air as well as protecting the skies from becoming full of drones and vertical taxis and planes. Also just the quality of the air. We don't want a building which is, if you're in a big city, you can't have all of the buildings powered by wood fire, even though wood fire in some ways is very sustainable. Because it will lead to a lot of smoke, a lot of smog, which will lead to very bad air quality, which for the next generations will then have significant impact. This then goes back to the cleanliness of the area, and it leads to, yes, there's all lots of interconnections, which I guess is the point of this, is to realize that everything's interconnected, but still.
Yeah. Right materials.
Yeah, that was me. I think using the right materials to build out of, in terms of thinking about what they're going to look like even in 10 years' time. Like there's a lot of uses of cladding and stuff that looks rubbish or degrades pretty quickly. So being responsible in terms of what you build with and where it comes from.
And if the degradation is helping also for the earth. Really, really interesting that, yeah. Save the history and give the place for creating new. Good one. Who wrote it?
Yeah, that was me. So yeah, to save the culture and yeah, all this knowledges that hiding into the culture, to save them into the places, but yeah, to give the future generations to change and also adapt the spaces, so to make this more flexible, not the not so stable, so resilient but flexible places. Because actually we can't know for sure what will become next, and yeah, there are places for experimenting. And
yeah, really interesting. I mean, at the end, if you see the story of buildings, the ones who stay the most are because they are difficult to take away, or because they are beautiful. And that's why I wrote beautiful now. Or if that's I mean, could be more things that brings this, what is from the past coming, or why a church become a discotheque, a club nowadays. But because at the end it's like it's a new use, but yeah, it's the same place because it's beautiful. It's a good space. So how you make beauty, good spaces that will stay for a long time. Or what is the essence of it? Because, for example, I can just believe in the Japanese temples, no, in somehow that they say, okay, we cut this 100-year-old tree, and at least our building has to stay for these 100 years to be regenerative. Or all this thinking of if this material, so if it's a tree is 30 years, at least needs 30 years to be there. No? If it's a stone, if it's concrete, I hope our buildings that we are building now stays like the Romans ones, 2,000 years. Who, or that's a big challenge or a big responsibility for architects or for people, because you can make a painting with chalk, could stay or could stay not, it will not be, but making stones or churches, that needs, you have to be conscious of that time that you are giving to the materials.
But I think it's also important to not confuse impermanence with insignificance. When we think about the next 7 generations, we also want to think about the space for them. So in a way, it's good for our generation to make art with chalk, because then it'll wash away and the next generation can make their own art in the same space. And it can carry, I mean, it's an example, but when thinking about conserving it for future generations, you know, we want to leave them space and possibility for their own stuff, which I think is important. But I don't know who put buildings that can be disassembled, but things like that as well, so that we leave them something which they can use, but which they don't necessarily have to.
Exactly. Really good point. Yeah. Do we have to leave a space for this? I like that. Leave a space for this next generation more than build things. So we should stop building.
Exactly.
Go away. Change your.
Maybe a central question of do buildings have to last? Well, is it necessary to build for 7 generations? Because what do we know about the next 7 generations? Or is it, I mean, we always compare the Romans, or we take the Romans. I mean, and the materials they used were just stones, wood, and clay. And that's it. I mean, and when we see what we put into buildings today, and then we assume that they should stand for 7 generations, it's kind of, is that really true? Or should we really focus on using materials that, when disassembled, they're not doing harm, or they can be reused the way it has often also been done? I mean, old buildings have been disassembled, churches have been disassembled to build new buildings. That's something that we see also. I mean, we have witnesses of that. The Colosseum in Rome part of it has been used to build new buildings. So that process of knowing that there is a process of reusing, and that's something that I think is often not considered today. We think we build forever, and that's the way stuff is constructed. It's glued, it's poured, but then in 20 years.
I think it's also kind of what I was trying to say when I try to relate buildings with organisms and cities with ecosystems, because ecosystem is like a mix between organisms and physical environment. And we are, as an architects, we are building physical environments. And we have to change that to go to organisms that we don't know how long will take. And this is what you're saying, no, about Roman Empire. They are there because they want, that's also part of, it's really political. I just want to, in Madrid, I just want to change the name of the airport to that everybody remembers me as the one who changed the name of the airport. So it's like taking out that ego out. And organism just, they will be there, and if they need to die, they will die to give birth other things.
So I really like that one that says mimicking the nature's strategies of adaptation. And that I think really brings it back also to what you said in the beginning. I mean, in nature, nothing is wasted. There is no waste. And in our culture, in our building culture, in our culture in general, there's a lot of waste. So and mimicking nature to me is not necessarily making it look like a tree or so, but mimicking the processes of that nature shows us on how things can work sustainable and long term. So everything can be reused and everything serves something also once it dies, or once it doesn't actually die, it just changes its state.
Whoa. Thank you.
I think that's a very good point. And I think maybe that's a good point to end on as well.
Yeah.
That nothing ever dies, it just changes. We need to incorporate that into.
We need to end for a new birth. Next one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. And yeah, we keep in contact, the ones who are interested. And thank you very much for this game, this brainstorming.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.